Hey, Israel, number one.
Yes, Israel number two.
Hey, so why did Mexicans go to the United States?
So, there was this Mexican Revolution going on in the 1910 against this guy, Porfirio Diaz. He was a dictator who ruled Mexico for 35
So
years.
what was wrong with that?
So, under his rule, there was relied heavily on foreign investments, like from Europe and the United States. He modernized Mexico, but at a huge cost. A rise of poverty by 90%. And people were landless, man. And also, he lied that he was going to resign. And he didn't. So this led to a huge insurrection against him. And at this time, we start to see leaders like Pancho Villa and Emilio Zapata rise up against him. And this revolution was pretty bloody, man. People were dying everywhere in it. And it was pretty dangerous to live in Mexico during this time. So Mexicans wanted to escape this violent revolution. So millions of Mexicans decided they're gonna go to the United States because they believed it was paradise for them. A place they could have food and there was jobs for everyone. So they walked miles and millions of Mexicans didn't make this trip. But when the Mexicans did arrive, there was recruiters from different companies offering jobs, only to males though, not for women or females. So this led for a lot of boys, the age of 13 or younger, to rise up to get these jobs so they could support their families, support their mother and sisters. And by the early 19th, and there was like 3,000 between 5,000 Mexicans living in the United States. And it was like in the 1930s, over 150,000 Mexicans were living in the United States. But when they got there, they were second class citizens, though. But in the 1930s, the US was in a depression. There were scarce jobs. So the president at the time made a scapegoat, blaming that we need to take these Mexicans out. And once we do, there'll be jobs for everybody. So the LA Mexican Council just suggested to give Mexicans train tickets for them to return home, saying that there was no room and there won't be service for them, no food. So a lot of Mexicans returned home and they were forced out. But United States would invite Mexicans back in 1942 under the Presero program because a lot of U.S. Americans were going to fight the war at World War II. So this left the United States with a job shortage. So a lot of Mexicans came in, and that's how a lot of Mexicans came back.
That's pretty interesting. Nice. Well, I'll catch you later then. Peace. Hey, Israel, I have another question. So, why did the Puerto Ricans come to the United States?
So for the Puerto Ricans, they left Puerto Rico because there was a Great Depression in the island. The island relied heavily on sugar. So when the U.S. sugar economy collapsed, that caused the island to collapse too. Plus, under U.S. rule, there was disease and starvation and unemployment. So the U.S. offered Puerto Ricans away from this Great Depression misery by going to the United States. The U.S. granted Puerto Ricans citizenship in 1917, so Puerto Ricans were able to travel to the United States freely, and they would also leave during when the Puerto Rican government took action on in 1947 by becoming more industrial economy, and there were during this time there were Puerto Rico was ruining a lot of American companies come to Puerto Rico, and this led for a lot of Puerto Ricans millions had to leave, which made them want to leave, and this caused a huge airborne migration to the United States.
Huh. Neat. Alright, well, I'll catch you later. Thanks, Israel number one. Thanks for answering my questions. Dude, what about the Cubans?
Damn it, Israel number two. If I tell you, would you leave me alone? Please?
Yeah.
For the Cubans, that was an interesting case. So in 1959, Fidel Castro and a bunch of revolutionaries marched to Havana, following with an armed revolt. They went to go overthrow this dictator named Valencia Batista. Supporters of this revolution was poor, usually middle class, and professionals. So people who were upper class and elites of were living like were in a deep threat. So they decided to leave Cuba, and individuals decided to go to the United States. And a lot of Americans, these were seen as great immigrants come to the United States. So the United States really welcomed these guys because these were wealthy. These guys were like white. So yeah, that's one way that why they came to United States, Cubans. But when Fidel Castro started to take rule, there was rumor that he was going to take parents' rights, and he was going to decide what to teach for kids. Also, families were seeing that their friends were being arrested and being executed during this time. So families were scared, man. So the clandestine network involving Cubans and Americans and the Catholic Church and the CIA planned to transport kids to the U.S. between 1960 and October 1962. It was called Operation Peter Pan. So 14,000 minors went to the United States to live with their relatives, friends, or to be taken care of by the Catholic Church. There was a plan for these kids to return home when things get better in Cuba, but things stayed pretty bad. And Cuba was making things hard for them to come back. So that was one way Cubans came to the United States.
Huh. Neat. Alright, well, I'll catch you later. Thanks, Israel number one. Thanks for answering my questions.
Alright. See ya, dude.
Israel, one more question.